Hey guys, Top of the Nun here. Today I'm going to be showing you more about the MythicDrops configuration. You've got your handy dandy little test server or main production server, and you've got a jar of MythicDrops. I'm currently using build 67 of MythicDrops. So take your jar and drop it in your plugins folder. I'm going to be doing a clean installation. You don't have to. I'm just going to be showing you what the different configuration options are. So after you start your server, you should have a folder in your plugins folder called MythicDrops. Inside it there is a bunch of configuration files, and I'm going to be going down through this list here in a nonsensical order, so please just bear with me. First off, we have your resources folder. Inside your resources folder you have prefixes, which look like this, and they're one of the things that you can name your items with. And we have your suffix.txt, which has lots of suffixes that you can use. So not much to worry about there. A lot of people don't even bother modifying those. Advanced config.yml, it will be covered in a second. Your config.yml is the first thing we're going to cover now. Item display name, item display format variables, I'll cover those more in depth in a second. First off, we're going to focus on your options. So you've got safe enchants only, which basically says that any enchantments that can normally go on an item are allowed to, and any enchantments that cannot normally go on an item cannot. So for example, you can't put sharpness on a chainmail helmet. Allow enchants past normal level basically says that if an enchantment's maximum level is normally 5, if this is true, then it can go past that. Custom item spawn basically says that custom items can be given to monsters, and I'll be covering custom items more in depth in a minute. Custom items only says that if this is true and custom item spawn is true, then the only items that will be given to mobs will be custom items. Custom drop chance only works if custom item spawn is true, custom drops only is false. This drop chance says that with the default settings there's a 10% chance when a mob is spawned and given an item that it will be a custom item. Auto update does absolutely nothing until I get a build up on Bucket Dev for you guys to download. Debug on startup basically just prints out a bunch of messages about the plugin whenever it starts up. Spawn prevention. If a mob spawns from a spawn egg and spawn egg is true, that means that the mob will not spawn with any items. If they come from a spawner and spawner is true, they will not spawn with any items. Alright, I'll get more into this display in a second. Percentages. This percentage here is the global spawn chance for mobs to have an item. This right here, 0.25 means 25%. You could set it to 10% by changing this to 0.1. You could change it to 5% by 0.05, etc., etc., etc. The plugin has multi-world support. So what you have to do for that is you can set enabled to true, and then items will only generate in worlds in this list here. Same thing goes for use. You can only use abilities, which are not quite implemented yet, in worlds underneath this use list here. Alright. Next is the advanced config.yml. These tool IDs here. Here, I'll open up your the config.yml again. Alright, so you've got item types. You've got sword, axe, pickaxe, shovel, hoe, bow, fishing rod, shears, helmet, chest plate, leggings, and boots. You can put any kind of item in here. It supports the ID of the item and its bytes. So for example, if you wanted to have a sword that had a ID of 999 and a data value of 99, you could write it like this: 999 semicolon 99. After that, it would forevermore be a sword unless you removed it or changed it again. Yeah, so that's a fairly useful thing. It supports mods through that, and these tool ID types are also known as the item type thing here. So for example, if you were to have an item, a sword, it would display sword with a capital S if its item ID type was 267, 268, 272, 276, or 283. Then you have modifiers for spawning with an item. If it's listed in here, it will take this number here to the right of it and multiply it by this number here, and that will determine the chance of that kind of mob spawning with an item. If, for example, you wanted zombies to always spawn with a item and your global spawn chance is 0.25, you could change zombie spawn with item chance to 4.0, and that would essentially be 4.0 times 0.25, which is equal to 1.0, also known as 100% of the time. So that's fairly useful. Tooltips. So you know the lore that you can equip at the you can have at the bottom of an item. Well, in this case, you can choose exactly how items are formatted. Down here you have type, and then it goes through mythic material. In here you can use pretty much every single item display format variables except for basic prefix and basic suffix. So base material, mythic material, item type, tier name, and enchantment are all fair game. Alright, so that's your advanced config.yml. Let's go now to your custom items.yml. Custom items, this is the name of the item. You want to try and keep this one word, it helps with the commands. This is the material ID of the item, so this right here is a diamond sword. It has a material data of 0, so whenever you create the item it'll have a data of 0. Its name is displayed as Nachian sword, so this should actually end up displaying Nachian should be gold and sword should be gray. It should have sharpness 10 as an enchantment, and then it will have these two lines here as lore. So this sword came from the hands of Notch himself, and then on the next line, be careful with it, it is sharp. I don't recommend making the lines this long because it looks rather funky. The chance here is the chance that the item will be chosen out of the random list for being the custom item given. Material ID here is a mistake and it's going to be fixed in the next version. So after that we have our language.yml. I'm not going to be going over the effects.yml right now as it does absolutely nothing. In your language.yml we've got all of these different names. So for example, if you wanted to make iron shovels actually say iron spade when they're created, you could have this as long as the item name includes mythic material. The mythic material refers to this list right here. Alright, so forgot to mention earlier that this item type here refers to this list here. So for example, if you have an axe, it will print out axe. If you have a hoe, it'll print out hoe. If you have a helmet, it'll print out helmet, etc. Alright, so down here we have our enchantment names. This is kind of broken a little bit at the moment, but I'm going to be working on fixing it soon. If the highest enchantment is durability, it will give it a name of durable, as shown in this variable here. So you can put that wherever you want, and dependent on the highest enchantment, it will give it that name. Alright, so that's it for the language.yml. Prepare.yml. This is something that I've incorporated recently. It's not perfect yet. If you allow repair, you can basically repair items using, say, if you have an iron pickaxe, you can use iron ingots to repair it. You can allow over repair, which lets you fix it a lot. You have a chance modifier to keep your enchantments on the item when you repair it, and your enchantment multiplier, which makes it more difficult to have the more enchantments you have, the more costly it is to repair the item. Discount modifies the amount that it costs, and use highest enchant just basically says repair based on the highest level enchantment. Repair items is just a list of formulas. So for example, if you want to repair chainmail boots, you have to have iron ingots. In order to repair it some, you have to have 2 iron ingots. And now for the final configuration file that I'm going to cover, we have our tier.yml. Alright, so I've had a couple of people sound very confused by this, and so I'm going to go through it rather slowly and make sure everybody understands it, because it looks terrifyingly complex, but it really is not. So this is the name of the tier. Let's see, I'm actually going to collapse everything else so we can just focus on this common tier. Alright, so we have our common tier here. Its name is common, and its name is displayed as common. You can change this so it says common 1 or common tier, or you can even have it become something completely different. You could have it be natural, whatever, it doesn't matter, it displays it exactly what you want it to. The color is what the color of most of the text on the item's name is, excusing color codes. Identifier is the last color code in the item's name. You won't be able to see it. This color code just gets appended on at the end of the item's name, just to make it easier for me as a developer to identify the item. Now, enchantment, all of this right here has to do with the random enchantments that you put on. So on the common tier, it has a minimum amount of enchantments of 0 and a maximum amount of enchantments of 0. So this says that you can have a total of 0 enchantments. Same thing goes for min level and max level. You can have between 0 and 0 levels of enchantments. So if I were to change min amount to 1 and max amount to 5, I could have anywhere between 1 and 5 enchantments on an item. If I were to change min level to 1 and max level to 5, it would set it to any level between 1 and 5. Automatic enchants are enchantments that automatically go onto the item. So for example, if I wanted all items in this tier to have sharpness 5, I could do all damage 5, and all items in that tier would automatically have all damage. Now, that applies to all items. It's not safe enchantments based. Just if it's an item in that tier, it automatically goes on that tier. Natural is very similar to automatic, except that it applies safe and chance. So if an item can actually go on that item, it will. If it does not normally go on that item, it will not. So I could have all damage 5 and punch 6, and punch would only go on bows, and all damage would only go on, for example, swords. Allowed enchants. This is the most difficult part to understand, so I'm going to go over this rather slowly. Durability is the name of the enchantment. 0 is the minimum level that an enchantment can be, and this second 0 is the maximum level the enchantment can be. Every single number in here overrides the numbers up here. There are only ever going to be 3 here. There's going to be the name of the enchantment, the minimum level, and the maximum level. If you use this minimum level, it overrides this min level here. This second will override this. So for example, if I were to set this to 1 and 5, it would allow the common tier to have enchantments that are durability 1 through durability 5. Same thing goes for any of these. Allowed enchantments are enchantments that are allowed to go randomly on this item, but since there are no enchantments allowed through min amount or max amount, no enchantments will go on this tier. Chance to be given. This is a very high number, and you're probably always going to find common items, because Java does not particularly like to generate high random numbers. So if you have a 0.8, that's an 80% chance for the item to be given as a common item. You can change this to 0.5, and that be a 50% chance. Chance to drop is how likely it is that an item will be dropped from a mob when it is actually given. So you could set this to, for example, to 0.5, and it would have a 50% chance to actually drop when given. So if, for example, you want mobs to spawn with items but not to drop them, you could set each chance to drop to 0.0. Min durability. Let's say, for example, we have a golden sword that has a durability of 33. So the minimum durability that an item can have would be 25% of that's durability. So that actually ends up being about 8 durability. So the plugin will automatically randomly assign an amount of durability to the item between min durability and max durability. So this item will actually end up having about 8 damage to it, and if you want it to have no damage whatsoever, you can change both to 1.0. It's fun to play around with those. You can make it pretty much turn into however damaged you want. These right here are pretty much the same things that we covered back here in our advanced config.yml. Our sword, axe, pickaxe, etc. It's just an easy and quick way to define it universally. And then for IDs here, it's just the same kind of thing. You just do the item type or the item ID, and then you can also do it so it's got data values, and the plugin will automatically read it and add those IDs into its list. So that's basically it for the tier.yml. It just goes on throughout all of these and has different numbers. So yeah. So alright, I believe that wraps us up for today. This has been Top of the Nun, and I will see you guys later.